right. Welcome to the episode 2 of Stoke Podcast. On this episode, I am honored to introduce Kyle Trudeau, one of the fastest guys in the country for marathon mountain biking. He tells us how he becomes the athlete he is. And my expectations were I thought he was going to just tell me some secrets of training on the bike. But it was almost everything that he did off the bike that made him so disciplined and helped him to get where he is today. So I'm super stoked to introduce Kyle Trudeau on this new podcast. All right, guys, stay stoked. Help me welcome Kyle. All right. Welcome to the Stoke Podcast. Today, I have Kyle Trudeau on. I'm just so stoked to be talking to you. Kyle, you are a professional cyclist, mostly in the marathon discipline. This year, Kyle took second at the Cactus Cup to Riley with a all-out sprint. You took 8th at the Sea Otter Classic, which is a huge result. Second, in the crit at the Whiskey, which, I mean, there was so much horsepower there. So I was in the crit too, and you guys were just like unreal. 5th overall in the Whiskey 50, first Cascade 100. You were 2nd overall at the Pikes Peak Apex, which huge congrats. First overall Grizzly 100. That was in Big Bear. That was pretty recent, right?
Yeah, that was beginning of October.
Yeah, that's insane. First overall at the Filthy 50, out sprinting Alex Wild. That was recently 2 weeks ago. Which going into it, it was either going to be you or Alex for sure. And I thought you could do it and you did. You overcame. So I had Samantha, your girlfriend, send me a intro. Describing things that maybe most wouldn't know about you. And this is from her. She says, Kyle and I started dating almost 3 years ago. I remember seeing a picture of him and thinking, he looks like a total bro, but he had a motorcycle and I wanted him to take me for a ride. What I've learned about Kyle over the last few years is that although he has some of the Kyle personality traits like drinking Monster and punching walls, he's one of the most genuine and kind-hearted individuals I've ever known. Most people that meet Kyle would say he's quiet and shy, but he would just say he's a really good listener, which is 100% true. There are a lot of little things people who are close to Kyle know about him, like how he loves cats and isn't a fan of dogs until he met me and our little pup Mill stole his heart, or that he has a sleep schedule of a geriatric man, in bed by 8 and up at 5 a.m. The sleep schedule was a selling point for me personally. Kyle is vegan and doesn't drink. Kyle also does not camp, although he claims he's been camping before. The only place rugged we sleep is in a Motel 6 before a race. One thing I really love about him is that even though being a professional athlete has become more about how many followers you have over athletic talent, Kyle has not strayed from who he is in an attempt to gain popularity. Unfortunately, this may cause some missed opportunity, but I think the fact that he remains focused on hard work and authenticity to further his career will hopefully be an example for future riders.
Yeah, I think she nailed it on that one.
Yeah. Would you say you're a shy individual?
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of, I guess, withholding until I get to know someone. I'm not too outgoing. I kind of keep to myself, and it's just kind of how I've always been. So I've never really thought anything different of it. But yeah, everyone who has gotten to know me, they definitely say I'm shy at first.
Yeah, and then you just go out and stomp.
Yeah, it's easy. I just kind of let the riding do the talking.
which, dude, I commend you for. I mean, and Kyle, the reason I wanted you on the podcast is so this year I lined up with you at the McDowell Meltdown for NBAA. And that was like my first kind of race that I knew I was fit enough that I could keep up with the top guys, but I knew I wasn't like, I didn't have the experience to know how much water to drink or how much food to eat or anything like that. And I just remember off the start line, I'm like in the 6th position and you're leading, and I have to pass the other 4 guys. So now I'm in 2nd place, and I see you climbing this hill, and I am going all out. I mean, whatever Quinn can push I was pushing because I wanted to just catch you. And like I kept going and pushing harder and harder and harder, and you weren't moving. You weren't coming closer. If anything, you were going further away, and I was like, there's no way he can hold this. I'm at 185 beats. I'm out. Like, there's no way I can touch you. And I didn't see you after that, but I saw your tracks, and I tell everyone this. There were like the punchy climbs at McDowell. It's like that grainy sand, and I can see your tracks. You were throwing dirt back with every pedal stroke. I could see dirt with every pedal stroke up these climbs. And that's when I was like, oh yeah, I'm cool with like maybe hopefully keeping 2nd place. There's no way I'm going to catch this guy who's literally creating a rooster tail from a mountain bike. So yeah, right then and there, I mean, I've just always followed you and had my eye on just your results. And I was super stoked to see a result at Whiskey 50. And yeah, so thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. Yeah. Stoked.
And so what does it take to compete at that level?
I mean, it's really a lot of sacrifice. Like I've always, it's kind of like everything you do has to revolve around like you getting faster. You can't go out and train and then come back after your training, eat like crap, have a few beers, and then like expect to perform. It's like you go out and train, you come back, refuel, recover, go to bed at 8, or at least I do, because I'm up at 5 to get my training in before work. But yeah, everything. And I really like have learned that the last couple of years is I need to do everything I'm doing needs to be to like help me go faster. Like it needs to like increase my performance in some way. So the last couple of years, kind of really 2020 during COVID, really when I started, I really like cut out everything that wasn't just gonna help me perform better. And it's been a process, but I've been able to see some of the benefits of it this year, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think everyone who's listening could probably attest that. I mean, you've been competing. You are the top guy. You're the top guy. So what is it like? You're saying you're like cutting things out and kind of implementing others. Do you have like an example of certain things that you might have like cut out? Maybe that's training or food or recovery.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of stuff has been like over time, but way back in like 2017, I was having some issues with some blood flow to my leg. So back then I went on like an anti-inflammatory diet, which was like plant-based. Turns out it was something else, iliac artery endofibrosis, that was causing that. But I felt really good when I went plant-based. So since then, I've pretty much been plant-based. And then back in 2020, I really made the decision. I was like, well, like drinking was never like a problem for me, but it also wasn't like benefiting my performance in any way. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna stop drinking altogether. And so it's been almost 3 years, and same with that. I mean, I would have a few glasses of wine a week or something, but cutting that out completely, I really noticed just my recovery was way better. You wouldn't, even after like a glass of wine before, I would like wake up and be kind of groggy in the morning, but cut that out and really saw some benefits from it. And then another thing is just staying really consistent on a sleep schedule, which that kind of went hand in hand with cutting out drinking. I really like made sure to get my quality sleep every night, and like being consistent with that. It's not something you can just like, I've found you can't just, have good sleep for a week and then think you're good. It's like something that you do consistently month over month to like really see the true benefits of it.
And then that's super interesting to hear, because most people would expect you to say, yeah, I trained longer on the bike. I trained harder on the bike. I took a rest day. But hearing you completely shift almost a lifestyle for this sport, I mean, takes a lot, and it's really cool to hear. I mean, and cool to see, because you have so much horsepower, but it's what you're doing off the bike, that you're getting these gains really. And would you say that it's anything else, so it's changing your diet, cutting out alcohol, and then what would be the third kind of step?
I mean, yeah, having consistent sleep, super important. And then I mean, really like getting with a good coach that has the same goals that you do, and really knows a true process for you to reach those goals, and listening to them. That's the thing. When I first got a coach back in like 2016, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't the best at listening to him. I just wanted to like go out and ride hard and train, like just go out and ride fast every time I got on my bike. But that's definitely not it's been a long learning process that in that aspect, but I've gotten better. And you really have to listen to what your coach is telling you to do.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I don't have a coach, probably for the same reason that you didn't. Well, I just want to go out and punch it every time. But it's funny, it's like you see my Strava and it goes, 1 week I did really well and put in a lot of miles, and then the next week I didn't put in nearly the amount of miles or quality miles, but it goes like just up, down, because I think I'm killing it 1 week and then I'm trying to recover, so what coach do you have? Like what who's your coach?
Jason Tullis, of Go to Neck Coaching.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you feel, yeah, and he's just kind of on the same page with you, and understands what Kyle needs.
Yeah. So I've been working with him since 2016, and yeah, he definitely knows, like, I think more so than I do, how to push me, but not go so deep to where it's detrimental to performance. But yeah, I mean, it's really been I've I mean, I have no complaints being coached by him.
That's awesome. And then I kind of want to hear about like your races this season. What was your A race this year? I'm sure there were a few, but that one race you knew I need to be, I mean, and Kyle needs to be at the best shape, mentally, physically, spiritually ready for what race was that?
That was Whiskey Off Road. Yeah, that was my first pro race back in 2015. Um, and being from Arizona, it's awesome. It feels like a hometown race, and it's such a huge event. So that was really like one of my main focuses of this season. And yeah, I was able to put together a really good weekend. I went into it not when they changed the schedule, because normally it was like Friday night crit, then we would have Saturday to chill, and Sunday the backcountry race. And like not I think it was only like 2 months out or something, they changed the schedule and decided to do Friday night crit and then Saturday the backcountry race for the pros. And so I went into it like really just gonna noodle around in the fat tire crit, because I was so focused on the backcountry race. But ended up finding myself in that front group. I started like in the crit, I started like second to last row because I decided to take like one extra warm up lap, which wasn't the best ever. I get to the start line, everybody's like 5 rows deep. So yeah, I was like, well, whatever. I'm just kind of use it to keep the body open, but ended up finding myself in the front group and feeling good like halfway in. And I was like, well, I'll just, if it gets like a little too much, maybe I'll back off. But I'm in a good position now, so let's see how it rolls. And then came down to that last lap, and Kabush was just off the fronts a little bit, and I was right on Keegan's wheel the last time going up the climb of the crit, and he took off hard, and it was I I hit like 1200 watts just trying to like hold on to his wheel up that climb and getting distanced. Like he was like getting a bike length on me, and I was like, there's no way. But it was like last lap, and then we made that right hand corner and it climbed up a bit more, and he just gunned it again. And it was like, I look back and the whole front group was shattered. So I was like, well, we're like committed now. I just kicked over that last hill and ended up rolling in for third. So Keegan got it, and then Luke came around me, Luke Robenvelder, like on the flat bit right before the finish. But I was stoked on that. And then we had a 7 a.m. start the next morning, and it was already 6:30 at night. So, I'm sure just trying to calm down after an effort like that takes hours. So I was trying to like eat a bunch of food and then laying in bed for 2 hours trying to fall asleep, just thinking like, oh man, I hope I have it for the morning again.
Eyes just like can't sleep. Because
Yeah.
first your body's just trying to like calm down a little bit, and then you have the thought of I gotta race tomorrow, and you're going through every scenario in your head, like water. Okay, when am I gonna eat? When am I gonna make a move?
Yeah.
So dang. And what was your secret to like calm down?
Really, I just like I had a lot. Well, my girlfriend helped a lot, Sam. We got back to our Airbnb and she made dinner, and I was like, while she was making dinner, I was putting all my nutrition together for the morning, so I didn't have to think about it. And then that's like one of the things I overthink so much the night before a race is making sure I have all my nutrition and it's all ready. And then also that like my bike's ready to go. So I was getting all that ready. And then so once I was done eating dinner, just I was able to like lay in bed and kind of, I was just trying to like let my mind rest, trying not to think too much about like what I needed to do in the morning because most of it had already been done. So I just needed to like wake up in the morning, do the whole eat breakfast morning routine and then get on the bike and go race again.
Yeah. Skull Valley was probably my killer. How did you, and if people who are listening to Skull Valley, it's Skull, right? That's what
Yeah, Skull
Skull
Valley.
Valley is what it's called. Yeah. You descend this road, which is amazing because you finally stop pedaling, you just pin it, and then you turn around and then you go up it, and it's averaging like 10% grade the whole time, maybe 12. And then when you think you're almost there, where you came out, you pass it, and then you're like, wait,
Yeah.
we still gotta go, and you gotta keep
Yeah.
on climbing and climbing. So what part of that race were you? That was my kind of, oh shit, here it is. This is either make it or break it. What was your point of the mental battle, right? Like the little child in you is like, oh, you're hurting. I don't know if you can do it. What part of the race was that?
Yeah, well, for me, I really broke that race up into like 3 different parts because like my first goal was to make it like in the top 5 to the Skull Valley to the descent. And I was willing to like go pretty hard to make it top 5 to there. And so once I did that, and I was in 4th, me and Andrew Lesby ended up together on the climb to the Skull Valley descent. And then him and I descended the whole way down to the turnaround. And then my next section of the race was Skull Valley itself. And I knew the Skull Valley climb itself. And from like that section, my whole goal was, all right, hold position. And depending on how I was feeling, if I was with a group, maybe try to get some distance for the descent of Sierra Prieta. And Andrew and I were actually working really well together the whole way up the climb, trying to track down Russell Finsterwald. He was like 30, 45 seconds ahead of us the entire climb. And we were like, Andrew and I were both kind of on that limit. Like we can't really push much harder, it could be detrimental. And we just could not catch Russell. And so then the third section of the race for me was like all of that after the Sierra Prieta descent, and then you have that whole all that twisty single track that's fairly new to the race within the last 3 years or so. But yeah, I guess I didn't have, like breaking it up like that was just easier mentally for me because trying to like go into the race saying I need to finish in this position, it's like it can be daunting when you have 50 miles to go and there's 90 people you're lined up with. So that was really how I approached that race.
Yeah, well, that's smart too. I mean, I never even thought about breaking up that specific race into 3s because I never even did the course. So I just was trying to follow wheels the whole time, not knowing what I was getting into, which definitely, take my advice, don't do that. You got to make sure you're, know what you're getting into. So I blew up. I mean, it was just, I didn't know what skull even was or any of it. But yeah. So Kyle, that that alone is that feat is so impressive. I mean, and what was your time on the whiskey?
Uh,
Just over 3?
yeah, it was a little over 3 hours. I want to say maybe 3:15, 3:20. I can't remember exactly, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Just so impressive. I mean, that's averaging, yeah, that's unreal. And I want to bounce back. Like, when did you decide that this was your journey? When did you feel like I want to really commit fully to the sport of cycling and race it at the highest level?
Um, yeah, I don't know if there was like one instance where I was like, I'm going all in on cycling and that's going to be that. I think it was kind of a progression over time. I mean, I've always been competitive my entire life. I mean, I raced BMX when I was like 5 years old. And then I raced motocross for a majority of my life, from when I was about 10 till I was about 21 years old. And then um, I started getting more into cycling. I was talked into doing a race when I was about 22 or 21, 22 by my manager at the bike shop I worked at. And yeah, I like kind of had a natural draw to it just because I I love like pushing myself and finding my limits. And on the bike, it felt natural to do that. Um, Coming from motocross and just growing up on bicycles my entire life. So um, I kind of found I was pretty good at it quickly. And then so that along with just a need to feel like I needed to like keep pushing and pushing myself, there's just this progression of, all right, I've already done like this much. If I just commit more, I could take it to this next level. And then maybe if I just commit a little bit more, then I can even take it to another level. And so like over 8 years or whatever, that's kind of how I've ended up in the point where I am now, where yeah, everything I do kind of revolves around pushing myself and finding my limits on the bike.
And the bike is a really good way to find your limit because
Yeah.
it
Yeah. I
hurts.
mean, yeah, I feel like it's a great way because I can push myself so hard. And I mean, in motocross, I would constantly push my limits and push my limits, but a lot of the times that ends up with you crashing, and crashing on a dirt bike at those speeds has some bad, I mean, I've had a lot of injuries from that. So pushing myself on a bicycle, more like aerobically, there's less consequence. So I'm able to find those limits and push my own limits, and not end up with a broken arm or a broken leg.
Yeah. And also, you do reach speeds that are pretty insane on a mountain bike. So you're in spandex, with a
Yeah.
with a helmet on. So to say that it's not, necessarily dangerous on the bike, I mean, it's more controllable because you don't have a throttle under your ass, that's just
Yeah.
and you're off.
Yeah.
You can definitely control it, and it's a lighter two-wheeled vehicle that you can kind of maneuver a little better.
A little bit.
But yeah, so you've just always been on a bike.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was 3 years old when I started riding a bike without training wheels, and I've just always been drawn to racing and bicycles in general. So I've
Yeah.
just never known anything else.
Yeah. And are you currently working at a bike shop now?
Yeah, I'm the service manager at a shop here in Tucson called Oro Valley Bicycle.
Nice. And balancing training and work, that's an excuse for a lot of people is, well, I can never get to that level. I mean, I have a full-time job, or um, life is too busy right now. I can't go on a ride today. How have you managed to put in the time and the miles to stay aerobically fit, disregarding everything else, your diet, your regimen? But how do you kind of manage that relationship with Sam, relationship with a professional athlete, lifestyle, and then also, to make a living?
Yeah, it takes a lot of prioritization, I'd say. I mean, a lot of early mornings, uh, especially like I kind of prioritize my day, like wake up, get the training done, and then do it like no matter however much training I have to get done, you kind of go backwards from when I have to be to work. And, sometimes that's being on the bike at 5 a.m. so I can ride 5 or 6 hours and then go to work for 6 hours. And yeah, those days get really long. But going into each day with a plan and really being focused on each activity as as you're doing it, and not be distracted by, oh, I'm riding, but thinking about like something other than riding. It's like, I'm riding now, so that's my time to get my training in. And then once I'm done, then you move on to the next thing, and like your focus is there. So um, it yeah, it's really just going into each day kind of with a plan and just following it through it. Um, yeah, I guess that's about it.
Yeah, and like to stay present on the bike, that's super
Yeah,
interesting. When you're on the bike and you're training, you're really focusing on being on the bike in training. And so, when the mind wanders, kind of coming back to almost stay at this power. Like what
yeah.
what what does that look like to you?
I mean, the training, it can be different each day, but yeah, not getting, if the day is just an endurance ride, staying present on the bike and not getting distracted by, a Strava KOM that you might be passing, and pushing, outside of the zone you're supposed to be in. Um, but um, yeah, it's just really staying present and not worrying about the next task until it's time to be at that task.
Yeah, because if you're consistently thinking about work when you're on the bike, when you're at work thinking about dinner, when you're,
Yeah,
at work, it would be mentally draining. I don't know if,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
so that's interesting, just staying present on the bike and knowing this is where I'm at, going to work, this is where I'm at, going home, this is where I'm at. That way, tomorrow is that new fresh day because you're not consistently worrying about, God, I got a 4 hour ride in zone 3 tomorrow, or, oh, that stupid guy with the e-bike came in. I got to deal with that tomorrow. Not
yeah.
saying e-bikes are stupid. That was an analogy for whoever brought that e-bike in,
Yeah,
that guy. Um, but no, it's really cool to hear. And prioritization is huge to kind of stay at that level. And I'm where you were at 21. Just getting into the sport, finding how you can build fitness and what life looks like once you have a new job, and how do you make money? Because I'm not at your level, you know. I can race with them, but I'm not at Kyle Trudeau, Keegan Swenson, you know, I'm not at that level, right? So for me, the motivation is hard sometimes to just be like, will I ever get to that level while my life is still evolving, right? Because it could be a selfish sport at times. And so do you find support from your friends and family, so you never have that kind of burden?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, my girlfriend, she's great. She's, especially the past couple of years, traveled. I mean, I can't even, there hasn't been probably 4 races that I've done in the past year that she hasn't been there supporting me at. And a lot of the times it's her riding to the middle of nowhere to hand me a water bottle. But it's like small stuff like that can be so big. And then, yeah, my family too, they've always been supportive of, back when I was racing motocross, motocross was just kind of a family thing we did. So my whole family would always be at the races. And then when I took up cycling, I mean, they show up and support me at races too, cycling races now. So I mean, that really helps. I couldn't imagine, you know, having people around me that weren't supportive in, you know, my endeavors like that.
Cool. That's good to hear. I mean, because cycling is not the funnest sport to watch.
Yeah, I can
You
agree
know?
with that.
Yeah, like it's
Really,
so fun to race.
yeah, you really have to like know what the athletes are going through um to like uh I can't think of the word right now, but
To
like,
appreciate, you know.
yeah, to appreciate, you know, the racing.
Yeah, because you know, Kenzie's like, yeah, no, I love going to your races, but I say, okay, bye, and I figure something to do for 3.5 hours, and
Yeah,
then hope that, you know, nothing happened to you, and then you come in at the, you know, the time I think you're gonna come in 3.5 hours later. So,
yeah,
but it is such a sport where, as an athlete, from the time that gun goes off, you are fully ecstatic. You know, I mean,
hmm,
every pedal stroke is accounted for, every move in front of you. The trail is consistently changing and you're adapting to it. You're always feeling like, okay, my heart rate's at this, or my body feels like this. I can go harder, or ooh, my body feels like it's going to explode. I should kind of let off the gas a little bit. You're never bored,
yeah,
you know? Um, but yeah, so I commend the people who can support, you know, their partners who race bikes, because it can be hard. It's a very boring sport to watch. If there's not a drone or a film crew and you can't log in and live stream it off YouTube and you're there watching it in person, you know, it could be, it's not NASCAR where you can see them go around a circle. It's very,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. And just like a personal question for you, you know, because I know racing is hard and it can be hard on the body, and um, God, time consuming. Do you still kind of come up with fun routes, like almost, because biking for me, it's always an adventure. You know, a training day, I'm still going out and adventuring. Um, do you still have that sense of like curiosity and adventure with the bike, even in the midst of this mindset of I need to be as fast as I can?
Yeah, definitely. Because that's a great thing about cycling too. You can accomplish your training and the work you need to get done, and have this awesome adventure and ride these roads. And go to these places that you haven't before. And being able to do that, you know, under your own power is kind of something I really enjoy about cycling, and the work that goes into competing at the level I do. So, I mean, I know my girlfriend and I, we just recently took a trip. We rode our bikes from Tucson all the way down to the border in Nogales. And so I really got to kill like 2 birds or 3 birds with 1 stone, and that I got to spend some awesome time with my girlfriend, got my training in, and got to do an overnight bike trip, which I had never actually done before. That was the first time she did it, the first time I did it. I mean, I've done huge days on the bike, but never a point to point where, you know, I didn't end up in my own bed at the end of it. So that was super awesome. Just seeing how like little you need for a trip like that. Like I literally packed up my bike with a frame bag. I took a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, and we strapped some slides, some like flip-flops onto our bikes, and just took off. And you know, it was like a little gas station tour.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, but yeah, it was awesome. I mean, something like that, we were fortunate we had really good weather. I mean, it could be pretty brutal if it was raining or something the whole time on us, but yeah, that was super fun. And that's like stuff now that I'm going to be planning into my training this winter. I'm going to be doing more and more of that, because it was really a cool couple of days.
Sweet. And that was your first ever overnight, you pack it and hopefully you didn't forget anything kind of trip?
Yeah. I mean, our route was like all on road, and we went through plenty of little towns, so we weren't ever like way out with like outside of civilization. But yeah, like we got all the way there and got all the way back just on bike with, you know, what we took with, which was cool.
That's really cool. And does that kind of spark some interest in the future to maybe take on some big routes?
Yeah, I'm still hesitant about like the true bike packing, where, you know, I got to load up my bike with 50 pounds of stuff, but definitely some of those longer routes that, you know, like the AZT 350 might be like, might be something I do in the future. It seems like you can do that one with some pretty minimal gear choices. So yeah, it's definitely something I'm gonna be looking into in the future.
Yeah, you got to let me know.
Oh
I
yeah.
want to hear about it. Yeah, because that's a whole nother world of athletes, you know, to be in the middle of nowhere with no cell service, worrying about a cougar in the bush to your left at 1 a.m. Like that's the things I think about. It's dark, you know, is there going to be a bear? Like I'm done. I am now prey out here, and I got this bike that's too heavy. I can't go very fast. So I just commend the bike packers and ultra. I mean, anywhere longer than 12 hours. I mean, 12 hours on a bike is kind of insane, but 24 hours nonstop. Yeah. I just recently had.
That's a whole different
Dana,
world.
It's a whole nother world. Yeah. Dana Ernst was on the podcast, first episode. He did a 250-mile loop around Verde Valley. He did it in 23 hours nonstop, torn hip labrum, and his stoke was so high the whole time, you know, and it's just so cool to hear his story. But getting off track, yeah, bike packing is dope.
Yeah.
um, so there was a few questions that I kind of asked around for. I won't put the names in the I won't say the names. But one, this is a pretty good question. Um, is there anything you've learned in racing that you'll apply to the outside world or like in an office someday? What will you take away from cycling when you aren't competing?
Um, I mean, the work ethic is a huge part of it. Um, I mean, I know once I'm really done with racing professionally and stuff, the work ethic I put into cycling, if I, put that into um, like some other, uh, um, like another something else like work related, there's really you can really accomplish a lot. I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, 8 p.m. go to sleep, 5 a.m. wake up, and instead of the bike, it's something else.
Yeah. It's always got
I
to be
like it.
something.
Um, that's really cool. And then also, this is just my curiosity too. You know, the way, I mean, to be at the level you are, you must have days where you have to dig deep. Um, like you have to go into the hole, basically, which is where you just deplete your body of any anything, any happiness on the bike. You have to kind of get down and gritty, where the bike might not be fun anymore um, for 2 hours. Not that the bike won't ever be fun, but has there been a specific day on the bike that has been the absolute hardest, that is ingrained in your memory forever?
Um, I mean, those days happen. Yeah, like there's there's quite a few days like that. There's been some races where they're truly ingrained in my memory of like you've not really during like why am I doing this, but after the fact I was like, man, if I would have known how this was gonna turn out going, and I don't know if I would have started like one that pops out is Dawn to Dusk back in like 2015. um I was I was fairly new to racing back then, and I just signed up for solo Dawn to Dusk, which is it literally, that's when it went from like sunrise to sunset, so it was about 10 hours. And going into the weekend I was expecting sunny and 60-degree temperatures because it's in December in Phoenix, but we were faced with rain and 45-degree temperatures all day. And I did not have the proper attire for that. I was doing the whole day and, nothing but bibs and some arm warmers. And I I don't really know what kept me pushing, but I just knew if I stopped, I would not get going again. So yeah, for 10 hours, I was frozen and wet, and I ended up with like nerve damage on my fingertips that took like months. It felt like pins and needles on my fingertips for like months afterwards. And looking back, I was like, man, that was not ideal. But uh, yeah, if I would have known it was like that going in, I probably wouldn't have even started that day. But
Oh my
I
god.
mean, you just everything that happens during a day like that, you just take it like one thing at a time, and then you're like, okay, I can overcome that. Okay, I can keep going. All right, I'm gonna keep going, and then like eventually, like soon you're done, and
Like,
like you
why
at
did I
least
do
feel
that?
accomplished. Yeah.
You're shaking, wet. How many miles did you end up doing?
I think I think it was like 150 miles. Yeah, because I did. They were just under 15-mile laps, I think, and I did 11 laps that year, so ended up
My
being
God.
right around 150 miles.
And you just didn't stop pedaling?
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I stopped once because my hands were so cold. I had taken my gloves off for some reason during, because I thought that would make my hands warmer because my gloves were wet, and I was like, well, if I just take them off, then my hands will be warmer, which did not work out. And then my dad and my mom were actually supporting me in that race, and they set up like a little Mr. Buddy heater in the pit, and my dad like yelled at me to tell me to stop and warm up my hands because I had no dexterity in my hands and I couldn't even like put the glove on. My dad had to like my dad had to take the glove and stretch it, um, and like I just had to like try and hold my hand as stiff as I could so he could like slip the glove over my hand, and then um, which is probably a good thing. I probably would have really lost some feeling if I wouldn't have had those gloves the last few laps.
Totally. And honestly, I mean, even if it was 40 degrees but wet, you might have had some, you know, some danger for frostbite.
Yeah, because like I thought my hands were like the first few days afterwards, I thought my hands were still just kind of cold, but then like with the feeling in my fingertips not coming back, I started to get worried, and I like started doing, a bunch of like WebMD type research and shit to see if it was ever going to come back. And I from what I read, they said it was like early signs of frostbite. Like it was like, very minimal frostbite, but still kind of like along the same lines.
WebMD, you are
Yeah.
4 more days and you lose all fingertips.
Yeah.
No,
They're just going to fall off.
it's a dangerous rabbit hole.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I try to
Uh,
avoid it now.
so that is your hardest day on the bike was 10 hours in the rain and cold, no equipment, cold,
Yeah.
and numb
That,
hands
that,
for 3 months
yeah, that was one of
after.
the harder days. Just like attrition wise. Back when I did marathon world championships in Italy, back in 2021, I would say just physically wise, that was probably the hardest day. I had like never, after a race, I've never been like in so much like turmoil, just full body like shut down. I crossed that finish line and I made it about 30 feet past the finish line and just had to like sit against the barriers for almost an hour just before I could like get back up and like, get back to our Airbnb.
Dang, just incapable of moving.
Yeah, yeah, that day was insane. It was 75 miles, but we ended up with almost 16,000 feet of climbing on course. It's just it, yeah, that the attrition rate in that race was insane. It was like there was people just pulled over on the side of the trail. Like these are like the best guys in the world, and I was passing guys that were literally on the side of the trail just slumped over the bike that they just couldn't move forward anymore. They were so burnt, and like luckily I was at least able to like keep moving forward. But yeah, that one took a while to get
My
back to
God.
reality from.
How long did it take?
It was, I think my finish time was 6 hours and like 45 minutes.
That's still freaking impressive. I mean, with 16,000 feet of climbing, it's almost, you almost did, well, not almost, but
It was
halfway
like
to
half of
Everesting.
Everest. Yeah.
Wow. And 75 miles. So it must have just been, I mean, you get a descent and you're just automatically taking a corner and going up again, huh?
Yeah. The descents were so steep. Like you would get to the bottom of them so fast. You're just like immediately there was like not any time on that course where you were just able to like coast and chill, because like the descents were so steep, so you had to like be focused, and then immediately you're going right back up a climb that was like 15% or 20% pitches and stuff.
God, that makes me tired even just like thinking about,
Yeah.
because it takes so much energy and effort to stay focused and to descend a really technical trail. So to descend like that and to not even get a dirt road or a chill wavy section where you can recover, and to just go right back to probably a chunky climb, were they pretty like just rocky and chunky?
Yeah, it was not so much like there was some chunky stuff, but a lot of it was just really loose. Like the dirt there had a lot of like, it wasn't super packed in. So you really had to like stay focused on keeping traction of all the climbs, and they were so steep you couldn't just like, stand up and put power down. It was a lot of like seated, trying to keep traction and keep moving forward.
Just keep that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that sounds like it would be a very, very difficult race.
Yeah, that was probably overall the just toughest physical overall physical race. Like I've done Park City point to point quite a few times, and like that one, before I did that Marathon Worlds race, like Park City point to point, you're just so full body depleted after that race. But like
Yeah.
that course just took it to a whole nother level.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, that's amazing that you went to Worlds and you know represented the United States. Was it kind of everything you imagined?
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was such an honor to like you're just like, when you get to like represent your country like that, it's like just that much more extra motivation come race day. It's like, and like the course we did we did 3 laps, so like each lap was like 25 kilometers, I guess. And like there's people, like the Europeans are crazy. They like pretty much lined the entire course. They were everywhere out there, and just like they would just be chanting like USA, USA. Like they were just stoked that everyone was there. And so like you just that along with representing the United States was just like so much motivation.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, because you usually on race day, like when you're racing, you don't really see many people in the United States. Even at whiskey, you
Yeah.
some of the biggest races you don't see people. So I couldn't imagine like going up a climb in the middle of the mountains and seeing like a bunch of people cheering on USA.
Yeah.
That's
It
really
was
cool.
pretty, it was just a whole nother world. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Uh, Next time I'm gonna have to have you on the podcast again because I want to hear more about that experience, kind of the travel. I mean, like
Oh,
packing your bikes. Like, how did you deal with? I mean, everything about it, and then getting there, adjusting to the time zone,
yeah.
doing your research on the course. I kind of want to. We'll dive into that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can spend hours talking about that race alone.
Okay, cool. We'll plan another one. Yeah, because we're coming up on like 60 minutes. It's kind of where my attention span when I'm listening to podcasts is like maxed out.
Yeah.
But like, I have another question from one of your fans. Um, he, I won't go, I'm not going into detail. I won't tell any detail about him. But he was curious, and I know you're probably not able to share, but what are your plans for 2023 with kind of support?
Yeah, that's definitely still up in the air. Where I was I had things lined up pretty well with CZ for next year. Ended up getting a call, beginning of October, that the owners of the team were going to go a different direction. So yeah, since then it's really been trying to put together a program for next season. Yeah, I mean, even if I had details of it, yeah, I don't have any details of it right now, so I can't even. It's not even like I'm not saying what they are, because I still got to figure it all out. But
Totally.
yeah, I mean, racing is going to happen no matter what. So
Cool.
I just don't know what logos are going to be on my jersey yet.
Okay. All right. And that's only a bonus to the racing, So
Yeah.
we all know you're going to be racing. It's just we heard kind of what's happening, and yeah, it's sad, and people want to know where Kyle's going to be. So
yeah,
I'm excited to hear. I'm excited to hear what your plans are.
Yeah.
But yeah. And I ask everyone who I get on the podcast, what 3 guys would you want to hear? It could be anything. It could be cycling. And with the Stoke podcast, I don't want to just focus on cycling. I want to talk to people who have Stoke. And I got, some ultra runners, cyclists, bike packers. It could be, anything. 3 people that you would want to listen to.
Oh man.
And then I could get a hold of, though, Kyle. You can't be throwing Keegan Swenson. I'm like,
I think Kurt Ruffsnyder could really. I'm sure his stories are endless. He's always been somebody I've enjoyed hearing talk. My coach Jason would be another good one.
What's his last? Jason. That's right.
Yeah, he would be a good one to have. He's kind of like me. Like when you first get to know him, he's pretty quiet and withheld, but yeah, you get him talking, and he's really experienced everything there is when it comes to cycling and racing, which is cool. Man, I think I might have to give you
2. Just 2? That's okay.
I can't think of anyone else like right off the top of my head right now.
Kurt has been on my list. I raced him at Havasu, the Havasu Havoc MBAA this year, and it was 106 was the max in March. So
yeah,
and so I was really riding with Kurt because we weren't going fast. It was like full on stuffer fest. Yeah. My water bottles were like tea. I wasn't sweating anymore. Like I was just to the point where it was dangerous. I had to call it on lap 4, and he called it too. But there's a climb here in Cottonwood in specific. It's called 258. It's like this road climb. And Kurt had the KOM forever. And it's been one of those things where I'm like, I got to get it. I got to get it. And this guy, I looked at his ride when he got this KOM, and he started it back in Prescott. So he had this KOM, which was really stout. And he already had 60 miles of riding in his legs. So he's just like overall, not only his adventure, but his fitness is crazy. He's got so much power, and he's so humble. You would never know. And he'll be like, yeah, Kyle, I'm going to take your KOM. He'll be like, good luck. And he'll be like, oh no, I'll do it after 120 miles of riding. I'll go grab it. It's like, what?
Yeah, he'd be able to ride from Prescott down to Tucson, grab a KOM, and take a stroll back to Prescott. No problem.
He had Havasu, the Havasu Havoc. He rode his bike to the race, slept, raced. Then the next day, or actually after the race, he got back on his bike and headed back to Prescott.
Yeah, that's serious.
This guy is ultimate bike adventurer. his
Yeah.
stoke is probably super high. Well, Kyle, dude, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk. And I do this podcast um, not to try to get more followers or whatever, but to hear stories of people that I want to hear stories from. And it's just a bonus that, I get to share this story with others if I get permission, obviously, from, you. So if you're
Oh
like, nah, let's not post that, I'll be totally cool with that. But so, yeah, I thank you. And it was really cool hearing your story um, and to hear what it takes to, compete at your level. And I'm super excited to see where you're at next year. I'm excited to line up against you. And my whole goal every race is like, don't lose sight of Kyle, which is usually around 20 minutes and then you're gone. But next year, I'm going for 33 minutes. As I just got to see Kyle, and then I'm getting faster. I know. So yeah, dude, thank you so much. And I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It was great.
Absolutely. All right.